sometimes.
Okay, stand by. This is Morning Express, and thank you for staying with us. And well, that was an interesting chat there by Robin Toskin, and we'd like to get straight into the way it is. And joining me now is Hassan Omar, Senator Mombasa County. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Thank you. Happy New Year.
Thank you for coming. Happy New Year to you. It's not too late to say Happy New Year.
It's not.
Right?
We've just crossed over. It's still new.
It's still
in
new.
the practical sense of the word. 356 days, only on day 11, so still a new.
Still fairly new. And again, being the first time that you're coming on set this year, so
yeah,
it's good to have you.
A very decisive year.
Yeah.
I think we're going to enjoy this year.
Definitely.
Because I think
for you politicians, I know you're raring to go. In fact, you're already moving, given this is the year before the elections. But just before we continue the debate, we are expecting Ambrose Weda, who should be in the studio anytime now, hopefully in the next short while. But as we continue, once he joins us, we shall continue. And of course, this being a very, very key year, given that elections are next year. And as the opposition, what should we expect from you?
I think we've rolled out our agenda in terms of the state of the nation, which the party, Honorable Raila Odinga, Moses Wetangula, and Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka did articulate to the nation. We talked about issues around corruption within the Jubilee regime. We talked about the issues of exclusivity in terms of public appointments. It's something that we will have to deal with. We have highlighted oftentimes the issues of the transgressions on the Constitution of the Republic, whittling down, eroding constitutional institutions, including the Office of the Auditor General, an attack on some of the, in terms of appointment of judges, including the Chief Justice, an attack on the police reforms. So we're talking about also defending the Constitution to its entirety. And then one of the highlights also this year is because this is when the gestation period, in terms of the birth of a referendum, will have taken its full course, and therefore we are looking forward to having a robust Okoa Kenya constitutional debate. So I think our assignments are cut out. On matters we have a legislative strategy this time more than any other time, because I think we have seen how Jubilee has used its majorities, particularly in the National Assembly, to literally skew the outcome in terms of laws that tend to roll back some of the gains the Constitution has made, or some of the gains devolution has given to the Kenyan people. So one of the more immediate things is also to have a very robust legislative strategy, because that is one of our theaters of political competition. But nonetheless, we realize also we are adversely incapacitated when it comes to defeating Jubilee's agenda on their wide majority, and you see the poaching spree that they've had over the last over this Christmas break. So I think that said and done, our work is fairly well cut out. But for us, corruption is still
the main thing that needs to be dealt with.
And one thing I don't also necessarily believe is anything that will be done this year. You know, the opposition has had this consistency in terms of litany of the things that have not been done. Anything that will be done this year, both at national, county government, will just be the convenience of politics. So it's difficult now to trust a leader who just starts to wake up to some of the accountability issues that you're raising within the last year.
Are you suggesting that the die is already cast, given what has been happening in terms of the government or opposition, that really anybody who would be performing right now would just be a theater, basically playing for elections?
Jubilee has not been able to deliver on some of its core promises, including the deception on primary school kids that we were going to give you laptops. They say they will do it this year because they will do it because they know that that chorus is going to grow as we go to 2017. I think that's what explains why Jubilee now is on a vote hunt already. A government that starts off because it has no elaborate agenda.
One could argue that they've hit the ground running. They do know that 2017 is coming, and they want to make sure that they are in touch with the people.
So that's not how you get in touch. You know, you come and try to market things that are your obligations. You know, you launch a water project in Lamu and ask people to vote for you. You come and try, in quotes, to solve the Waitaki problem and just basically wanting to find an avenue to get people to vote for you. I think when you politicize policy and development, then the net effect is that you your political, your development agenda in the realm of cheap Kanu-style politics. So I think the Jubilee and any government owes us development even without the necessary politicization. So now is when you start launching all these little projects here and there, trying to show people that you just so suddenly have woken up to deliver. So I think that's why they've now gone for this, going for MPs in the Western region belt, going for MPs in Kisii, coming to Coast region and going for the members of parliament, because now they're trying to now just do the most desperate strategy possible to just try and rally numbers, because there is no narrative that they can win the election on.
Okay, and the president was in the coast for the last, quite a number of days. Do you think he addressed some of the issues that people at the coast have been perturbed by?
When the president is in the coast for about 16 to 18 days or 20 days, as much as he is at liberty to be there for that length of time, I think he's just having fun. Because I think these issues have been issues that have been outstanding. And I've said it time and again. Just to issue title deeds, 60,000 in the first array of things and another 5,000 in Waitiki, hardly addresses the fundamentals. The land issue,
what are the fundamentals? The
land issue is a manifestation of deliberate marginalization through state policy, deliberate alienation in terms of opportunities in government. So I think just the simple fact that you come and issue some IDs, title deeds, and then you appoint a few of our people into some boards somewhere, it doesn't necessarily resolve the core and fundamental issues. Our issues are issues of governance, constitutional governance. The Constitution is the charter that defines this governance, the relationship between the national and county government, the relationships between the national government and its people, the county government and its people, the inclusivity expected in government in its entire formation to the very end. So I think those are some of the fundamentals, the areas around improvement in the areas of education, improvement in the areas of infrastructure. How much road has been built in the Coast region by the Jubilee regime? It's just a broad aspirations. The Dongo Kundu, bypass, which was one of the Vision 2030 projects, which was launched by Kibaki, is hardly settled for a start. So I think when you look at it, for the Mombasa people and the Coast region in its entirety, the issues are so core and fundamental. It's not about lighting Old Town. It's not about putting street lights, competing with the county government on its own functions. So it's not about lighting streets.
One could argue you've got to begin somewhere, and at least if this is an unresolved issue for a long time, it has got to start somewhere. If it happens to just be the year before elections, then
it is politics. It happens.
And again, there are politicians who really...
Let me tell you. Where is this beginning somewhere? You see, you need to have a blueprint in terms of how to attack some of these structural and constitutional issues or structural, social political issues in the Coast region. And therefore, you needed to tell us on the issue of marginalization when it comes to education. This is what we are going to do to ensure that we up the standards of education. This is what we are going to, in the next 5 years, this will be our investment in education in the Coast region. How many national schools we will build, how many universities we will build, and then demonstrably appear to be doing that. When it comes to matters of ethnic inclusivity or in government, these are the types of appointments we are giving you at the very highest level, and these are the kinds of, returns that this has. When it comes to issues of land, you already, there's the Ndungu report, already have taken stock about the types of, areas of transgression when it comes to issues of land and land grabbing in the Coast region. This is our program to get back grabbed land, to get back, a land that is acquired by fraud, and this is our settlement program when it comes to these pockets of, squatters, both on government land and on private land. It had to be a program. It's not a weak need strategy, attack strategy. There is no infrastructure, dilapidated. This is how we intend to deal with the dilapidated infrastructure. This is how we intend to deal with the, wallowing levels of poverty.
Okay, one may ask the question and say, Hassan, you are one of the leaders at the Coast. What have you done?
What have I done? You see, for me, I have a legislative mandate, and I have realized that you can impact on policy of government from legislative from the legislative point of view. No, so what I have done is even to try and propose legislation that tries to attack some of the core issues, the most basic issues which our people, you know, wake up every morning to, and the challenges they must face: right to health, right. So I've tried to undertake an Article 43 legislative framework to ensure that there is deliberate investment. That's what I'm talking about. You must demonstrate through a program of action deliberate investment into these issues. This is not to redeem the county governments. I believe myself, almost all the county governments have performed dismally in also demonstrating a program of how they intended to attack some of the vices that face their respective counties. And that's why some of them now are just engaged in, you know, in running back to parties, because now they know that you cannot demonstrate an agenda for transformation in your county. Neither can the national government demonstrate an agenda of transformation. So what is the easier thing for you? To fall back on your party and your tribe, so that you tell them, really, it's about us and it's about our party. So we need to now assist ourselves to get back to power. So in fact, I think most of the governors are going to have an extraordinarily difficult time in terms of persuading their populace. Outside party, because now people know what governors can do and what it can impact, much more, as much as people know what happens at the national levels of government. So it has to be deeper than just saying, you know, I'm ODM, I'm Wiper, I'm CORD, I'm Jubilee. You must demonstrate through action that this is the program of action, and I think it requires a certain sophistication.
So do you have tangible things that you can tell us right here this morning and say, as Hassan, this is what I have done for my people for the last, you know, is it 3 years that you've been in office?
As I said, you know, when you're a legislator, and particularly a senator, literally your roles are confined to legislative agenda in terms of impacting on policy.
Right.
And we've done it. In terms of impacting on policy, my contribution in the Senate is there on any matter, in any bill affecting counties, on matters affecting counties, on trying to ensure that we safeguard the constitutional doctrine and the constitutional you know, sanctity of some of the office holders. We have defended devolution. Those are, if you look at Article 93, 94, it clearly states out the function, 96, the functions of a senator. So, and you know, many people ask senators, what have you done? That's a very unfair question to a senator. Senators do not have executive power. Neither do they control resources. Senators impact policy. And if a senator, you know, I don't like this narrative because I find it a little condescending to governors. But governors get their money on the basis of what senators fight for in the Senate. Because we are the people who are charged with division of revenue. In terms of, and then allocation of revenue to the various counties. So the allocation formula is based on what senators in holistic form agree upon. In fact, I have worked hard to defeat the new generation of CRA formula, because I thought it was disadvantageous to some of the counties, including Mombasa County, counties that have extraordinary wage burdens, counties that have an extraordinary, you know, overhead or fiscal responsibilities. So we needed to factor in certain things that are inherent in some of these counties that are big urban.
Okay, maybe let me not go so much into the work of a senator, because I think that would be a different show, and would like to look at a wider scope. And again, given that Ambrose Weda, for some reason or the other, apparently may not be able to join us. I've just got a text from him, because I'd have really loved to hear what he has to say as well. And well, just to mention to the audience as well, that Ambrose Weda was, you know, invited, and he was on the way, but for one reason or the other, he's not going to be able to make it. I've just read a message
I would love to call him after this show, because I really looked forward to meeting him. You know,
I know, this being the first show.
I'll be honest with you, I didn't realize that this show is fairly popular out there. And when I went out, particularly in December, to various parts of the country, and everybody says, wewe na yule Ambrose, sisi tunasikiza kila asubuhi, but they don't agree with him.
We'll not go into that, because he's not here to defend himself, and he also didn't bring us footage of that. But let's move on to something else, and this, of course, is the year, well, just a year before we get into the elections in August. And one of the bodies, of course, that we're going to be keeping our eyes on is the IEBC. Do you feel that they're prepared? First of all, we've got registration that's going to be starting, I believe it's on the, is it the 15th of February to the 15th of March? Are they prepared to literally hold or see through the elections?
Unfortunately, all members of the IEBC, all of them, to the last person, are personally acquainted or friends to myself. But I personally still believe that they have, unfortunately, the public confidence in the institution of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission has been so severed, the public confidence and credibility. You need to be appealing, you as a referee, you need to be appealing to both sides. You can't just be appealing to one side. And therefore, the fact that there are severe credibility gaps, I think the IBC then is incapable.
When you say they're appealing to one side, how do you justify that? Because really...
Because the code fraternity has repeatedly said that they have no confidence in the IBC. You don't need to justify it in any other way. And we saw their demeanor and their practice even in terms of the court battles that were fought, some of the filings in the courts. And then I think, just the sudden collapse of the entire system of electronic, and therefore then the kind of assertions about why the electronic system had to collapse is what allowed part of the tallying to be done in the manner that it was done. I know people are paying a price for it. I know people are taking responsibility for it. But that responsibility is exactly what we had said as a code fraternity. And we believe that we need to have a total shake-up of the IBC for it to gain the credibility that is necessary to dispense a program as important as elections. And there are two institutions, my brother, with Michael, which handle elections. The one institution is the IBC, which does the technical in terms of electoral technicalities. Then the other institution that handles it is the security machinery. That is the National Police Service, both the AP and the regular police, and by extension the provincial administration as it is. So if you look at all this, these are state machineries that have already been skewed. The reforms that have gone were supposed to be undertaken in the National Police Service to turn it from a regime police to a democratic police. The paradigm shifts upon what it's supposed to do so that you have a more participatory approach towards policing rather than the autocratic response to it. The depoliticization, the de-ethnicization of the police force is literally collapsed. The National Police Service Commission is almost sedated in terms of its capacity to even dispense some of its own responsibilities. It has quorum issues. The commissioners who passed on have not been replaced. Some have been incapacitated since the appointments, and therefore even the quorum to move forward. And you have seen the threats to the commission. So what has happened, that those intended reforms within the police service are as good as history. So if they're as good as history, it means therefore there is no, the impact of a police that is a regime police to manage an electoral process. You saw what General Ali did. He pushed out the opposition at that time, the ODM, so that he can then give way to an opportunity to announce the election, and that's where the play-up was. So, but you need a neutral police service that is there to serve every person. Look at the manner of appointment of I have no issues with him, but in terms of Boynet, you actually take somebody from this village and replace him with a person from the same village. Throwing away through the window all avenues of competence. That's what the ethnicization we're talking about of the police service.
So in your opinion, what does the IEBC stroke the security forces need to do for the opposition to have confidence in the electoral process?
First and foremost, we need to roll back Uhuru's leverage, President Uhuru's leverage on things like appointment of the IG, so that we put the safeguards so that we ensure an independent IG, and that high and fire strategy must be replaced by the kinds of accountability President Kibaki set up together with the then Security Minister Professor Saitoti, the late Professor Saitoti. They saw it prudent to ensure that you are able to secure the independence of the IG and the appointment procedure on its entirety. Look at what is happening to the DIG. Deputy Inspector General Grace Kainde. Yeah, she has a court order. She was bundled out in the most acrimonious and unceremonial way. It was just below the decorum that is expected by the Constitution, and her contract runs to the point at which the 4-year lapse. The court has barred them from the appointment of a new IG, so they have put somebody in an acting capacity, and therefore that undermines the process of having a police service, because once you are acting indefinitely, then you are unable to exercise the full authority of that office. So I think, all said and done, this is the kind of situation, unfortunately, we find ourselves as a country. And they need to show demonstrably that there has been reforms. Look, I just read it in The Nation the other day, in the Nation newspaper. which I have issues with for firing
one of the editors.
One of the editors. I wish we can discuss that. But I can say that for a fact is that Isaac Ruto's rally was stopped by police. We are going back to that regime policing that we saw during the Nyayo era, was stopped by police on account of some orders from some people from the executive. So I think there are all reasons to worry because of the playing field that has now been skewed back in favor of the government of the day.
Okay, now according to Martha Karua, she says that one of the things that needs to be done for the confidence of the opposition or those who are not too confident about the IEBC to be won is a lifestyle audit. Do you think that would help in repairing the image of the IEBC currently?
I think it does. I think lately this whole idea of lifestyle audits is coming in, and I think we need to set a template of how we need to audit lifestyles. But then what happens is once we set a criteria for it, then people will start to circumvent it. So I think it will be material to know because there's the general sense that there are some of the commissioners, not all. Some of them are extremely credible people, by the way, in that IBC. People who are highly respected even in some of our societies. Yusuf Nzibo, Engineer Sharawe, and the rest of them. Some of them are highly respected people within the societies we live. So I think I will not say that I will not cast aspersions on everybody. But there is a general sense in which some people have had a trickle of wealth that is not commensurate to the kinds of income streams that they have. So therefore, it is just only pragmatic for us to see, to get justifications and explanations, especially now headed to the elections.
But I guess what you're saying is that if the lifestyle audit was done, of course, it would not be done on some and not others. It would
be done on everybody. Yeah, absolutely, and I think that's exactly because you cannot start to segregate or point fingers as to who it is and who it's not. So I think it's one of the ways in terms of cleaning up some of the institutions that we need to bear faith to.
So is the issue with the IEBC here, in your opinion, due to the office holders, or is it the constitution or the makeup of the whole IEBC as it is?
The office holders are the IEBC. The commission is commissioners. That's why there's this argument that ESCC cannot claim to be properly constituted if it does not have its commissioners in place. Commissioners make decisions as collegiates, and that informs the policy and political direction, including some of the kinds of software that need to be bought, the kinds of investments that need to be made. The Secretariat is just an enforcement agency. It is a platform where decisions are made at the Commission. The CEO sits in it as an ex officio, and then he now takes the burden of effecting these decisions. So I think that collegiate, it has to bear the confidence of the people. So when we, I can have confidence in coming for this show on the basis that Michael is the one anchoring it. I know people who will tell you, I cannot go for a certain show because so-and-so is not a good anchor or is fairly biased, and therefore I don't think I can have any real good discussion with the person. So I think individuals are the ones who infuse confidence in offices.
It's difficult to separate the office holder and the office.
And the office.
Is what you're trying to say.
I think it is the independence and the credibility of an individual that impacts on his functions or on the office he holds. That's why in the Leadership and Integrity Act, it says that if anything does suffice that puts into jeopardy the integrity of the person and thereby the integrity of the office, then the natural thing is that you must try to step aside.
So assuming all factors remain constant and it remains as it is, what would the opposition do? What would the way forward be?
I know we will cross that bridge. I think there's been that robust discussion because our supporters go. I mean, I have been doing a lot of movements in Mombasa of late, and I've had several meetings with very formal and informal groups. The last one I had was with Bunge la Wananchi in Bomu. And I think part of the anxiety is, why are we going to go and vote if our votes are going to be stolen? So I think there needs to be that confidence. So I think as we move closer to the elections, we will be able to advise our electorates and our constituencies and our strongholds appropriately. But we need to inject some radical, transformation in the IBC within this year, so that it gains the confidence. And it's good to start with this voter registration exercise. Let's see how they handle it. I worked with Ezra Chiloba at the KNCHR. I know him as a man of great stature and etiquette and professionalism. He's a young guy, younger than me, so that makes him fairly young to hold the office he is. And I want to trust that he will do nothing that transgresses the values and the aspirations we all had when we worked in the various spaces within the human rights and accountability fora. So what I'm looking forward is for this electoral mobilization or voter registration drive to appear to be balanced, because we do believe that there are certain areas that are called strongholds that have been disenfranchised in terms of the infrastructure for voter registration, and that these are the areas that have the highest number of unregistered voters. You do realize that, let's say, in the coast region is where I think in terms of proportionality has the highest number of unregistered voters. The coast region has an estimated 2.4 million votes. Yeah, in the last election, in the last voter leading to the last election, they wanted to register 1.6. They only were able to register 1.4, 1.2, and only 800,000 voted. So 1 million voters from the coast region did not vote. So this year, this time around, the projections are about in excess of 2 million. So they need to ensure that they put the right infrastructure if they're targeting 1 million votes because we have not reached our saturation point. And most of the code strongholds have not reached their saturation point. In fact, it's not a coincidence that the code strongholds are the ones registering more voters. Because if you've already reached your cutoff, there's nothing to register. Right. We have not registered that. Okay. And we need to defeat these set notions which even the IBC is driving by creating a perception that there's somebody with a tyranny of numbers that this country is unable to surmount.
Okay, now there's a school of thought that has come out, and there are those within the government or in support of the government saying that the CORD principle and leader Raila Odinga, when he came out and said that votes are going to be stolen, it's crying foul beforehand so that you can create a notion and a feeling that they're already going to be done as a sign of defeat, sensing defeat. What would your comments to that be?
I don't think we'll be defeated. In fact, this time around we are going to win. I mean, that, you know, apart from the largesse of power, you know, whenever you have power, you're exciting. And that's what most of my friends do not realize. When you're president, when you're governor, you are exciting when you have power. You have something called aura. But the same person who's purporting to demonstrate on your behalf, or the same person who's purporting to hold a brief for you, might not be voting for you even in the next election. What narrative does Aden Duale have for his people? In fact, if he goes the Uhuru Kenyatta way, he's also doomed for defeat himself. Because I think the people of northern Kenya, who have reached that cutoff point where, you know, you can't transgress us on all these fronts and expect us to come as clans or as communities to vote for you and continue to give you a long life in terms of the transgressions. So I think what has happened is, when you see someone preparing, there's even in legal framework, there's a conspiracy, you can be charged for conspiracy in the intention to steal, the intention to commit a felony. So what you see is demonstrably that nobody is working robustly towards ensuring that or safeguarding the electoral process and its sanctity and its credibility. So therefore, it is paramount that the leader of opposition, Raila Odinga, Kalonzo Musyoka, and Wetangula will have to shout from the rooftops. That's an avenue of accountability. We have no other fora. Our space for reformative politics is the people of Kenya, okay. And therefore we have to ring the bells.
Mm-hmm. All right. Before we go to something else, finally, still on elections, what is it apart from the IEBC and the security that the opposition would want to have in place so that they can say, fine, this is a fair playing ground, and let's go into the elections, and winner takes it all?
A guarantee of the software. It has to be electronic. No, everybody has to go and have a thumb verification, and based on that verification, that is biometric, then the voting process is secured in terms of its sanctity, so that we don't have this litany. When we talk about this, the technology crashing. Once you crash the technology, then dead voters are able to vote. Then you're able to add numbers because there's no identification or verification methodology. Mm-hmm. So we want to have almost a foolproof guarantee. In fact, we even need a test case, a test practice, maybe in terms of a mock vote, and to a certain extent, to a certain scale, to demonstrate that technology will not so convenient fail on
technology is technology. I mean, there's no controlling and knowing whether it will fail or not.
Yes, that's true. Mm. But how is it that, let's say you go to developed nations, there are less outages. In fact, some friend from some New Yorker friend of mine told me, if flights went out in New York for 5 minutes, people will be wondering what's going on. Is there a coup? Here you can have lights going on for hours. when I was in the last 2 months or so, I've been in Mombasa, the outages are almost an hour. 7 hours, you know, in that type of situation. So technology is not technology. Sometimes humans fail it deliberately. So let us, and it cannot fail in such a widespread nature that it cannot be fixed. So we need to have alternative A, B, so that we're able to now, we seal the loopholes.
You have a backup.
Yeah, so when we use that arguments, we set up room for failure, that technology is technology, things fail, cars get into accidents, but they are avoidable. You can reduce accidents, you can put in, driving limits, you can ensure that your highways are labeled in a professional way, and the police are enforcing the law.
Okay. All right, let's move on to something else now, and there's the clashes in Kisumu, Nandi, and there seems to be violence. Your take on that, given that, according to some of the reports that are coming in, it is apparently cattle rustling that's going on. And, of course, there's another notion that it's a political instigated thing. What's your take on that?
You know, I don't want to appear to cast any kind of doubt or any kind of narrative that I have not validated. But both could hold credibility. You know, you can use a state of insecurity like cattle rustling as a basis for political incitement. We can just decide to show you grit, and I tell them, let's say if we are neighbors, I say, as a politician, go and rustle, in Michael's house, so that you create the ethnic pandemonium. And I think, therefore, people take advantage of existing avenues of insecurity to incite politically. So I think it's important. And I know this cattle rustling thing has been almost a chronic problem in Kenya. Donda sugu. We need to resolve it. I sat in myriad security committees, meetings, or when I was in the KNCHR, when I used to deal with security sector reforms. And it is important that we continue to get communities to sit down and to dialogue and to have government in an impartial way, sometimes intervene to ensure that they restore order, to see how best they can have a superiority of firepower. We cannot be overwhelmed by any group of criminals anywhere, or any person who threatens the life and property of another Kenyan. That's why the governments are there, to ensure that they have the capacity to reach out to anybody who tries to intimidate the well-being of the nation.
All right. As we wind up, I'm told time is up. On the headlines today is the Jubilee craft rules on religious, or to regulate religion. And I know you're a fairly religious man, and as a result, you are religious. Okay, let me not say fairly since you're here. But your take in terms of now, have we reached a point in time in Kenya where we need to regulate religion?
I think there's too much, briefcase religionism, exploitation. I think we need to mainstream the avenue. Freedom of worship is absolute. As far as I'm concerned, freedom of conscience. But it must be done in a manner that also is in an organized democracy. I'm not saying that I support everything that the government is doing, but there has to be an element of control, so that we also avert the potential of an all-out religious anxiety or animosity. Because I have seen some of the preachings. Some of them don't even ascribe to Islam. There's quite some ultra-radical preaching within some of our own faiths. And therefore, there's radicalism in different religions, and it only manifests itself differently. You go to the U.S., when Donald Trump makes the kind of verbs against the Islamic faith as he does, he knows that there is a certain constituency of rural America that supports that heavy anti-Muslim dogma. Right. And therefore, it is there. So we need to mitigate it. In fact, we need to remove religion also from the realm of politics. Let not people go to prayer rallies to mock the Creator. Let us organize ourselves in a manner that we separate church and state in the distinct sense, so that your faith is private and personal. But we need to also regulate that industry in a manner that religion is not allowed to infuse itself in politics in a manner as to
But wouldn't that now be crossing the line and going into infringing on freedom of worship?
No, I said your faith is personal. You know
It is personal, but one cannot be stopped from going to pray in public if that's what they feel they want to do.
If they feel they want to do that, let it be. But let everything be mainstreamed in a manner that does not create animosity in this country. When you see the manner and character and the preachings of some of the things that are said in various religious pulpits, then you get concerned. And there's some of these rules that submit your constitution. I've seen it, submit your certificates of good conduct. Some of them might be a bit of extreme. They could be targeted to certain groups. In fact, I saw some of them, and I said these are about profiling some of the. That's why I said you have to be very objective in this debate, profiling about some of these religious institutions, particularly the Muslim. So I think we need to, but we need some form of order, whichever way it is, so that we don't have anybody sprouting up and calling himself a pseudo-sheikh or a pseudo-priest and creating pandemonium within society.
And stealing from people, or even radicalizing because they use the same platform.
Yeah,
to,
and then, you know, you know, and let me say this with a lot of respect. I think religious leaders must stop this idea of always calling out on politicians, yeah, to hold harambes for them and to build this roof and to do that. In fact, you think the Kenyan people ask us so for some are full of demands, but I can tell you the kinds of demands that come from religious institutions are far, far more. And I think politicians sometimes almost feel hostage to some of these issues, you know. So you think maybe the congregation will be impacted or influenced based on your support for it. So we need also to demarcate so that we do not put value into ask me as a person who comes to your mosque or your church to contribute out of my own free will, not because I think it's part of the condition precedent for your support. Mm-hmm. And that one, then they have a moral obligation to transform the thinking of our society in a manner as to distinct politics or philanthropy from leadership. You could be a good philanthropist. If you have so much money to give, I urge you to go and join the UK Aid. There is the Muslim Aid. There are all these philanthropic organizations. Yeah. Leave politics to policymakers and people who beat their hearts and minds to think what is best for society.
All right, Senator Hassan Omar, will have to wind it up.
I really
right
hope
there.
we will have talked about Waitiki, but we'll talk about it.
Yes, we'll definitely do that.
It's actually so that we have a contrary view.
Yes, I actually have it on my list here, but because of time and the fact that Weather was not here, just to keep the debate balanced. But thank you very much for coming in, and thank you for giving us your objective view on 2016.
And have a happy New Year 2016. I think every Kenyan must play their role. It's not just about the politician or the other person you're always asking. You know, Kenyans always ask, what are you doing? You ask yourself also, what are you doing? You know, get out of your little comfort zone, get out of your pigeonhole, and do something. Thank you very much. That's Senator Hassan Omar, Senator Mombasa County, with us. And again, apologies from Ambrose Weda, who actually was on the way. He actually got here but had to turn back due to unavoidable circumstances. But he is well. Just in case you get worried, he is well. And we'll have to wind up Morning Express right there. But do stay with us right here on KTN News. We're going to have News Hour coming up next. And let me just try and demystify this. There's a number of people who have asked me, how come you tell us you're coming with KTN News? I mean, rather with News Hour, and then we have cartoons. There's KTN News and there's KTN Home. We have a news channel, which we have 24-hour news. So on KTN News, that's where we're going to have News Hour coming up at exactly 8 o'clock. Yes, 24/7 hours, 24/7 news channel right here in Nairobi, Kenya. That's KTN News. But for now, those of us on KTN Home will bid you goodbye. But those of us on KTN News, see you in just a few minutes. And we've got News Hour coming up.